right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We are so excited to see you here today for the info session for the Ubuntu Resource Program. We are delighted about having the opportunity to offer these opportunities, and we're glad that we have so many people who are interested in enjoying them and benefiting from our programming. So before we get started, we got to get down to business, and we have to, in alignment with our traditions, we have to start with our ancestral acknowledgement and our ancestral appreciation, as well as our land acknowledgement. Our ancestral appreciation. We honor the gifts, resilience, and sacrifices of our Black ancestors, particularly those who toiled the land and built the institutions that established this country's wealth and freedom, despite never being compensated nor fully realizing their own sovereignty. We acknowledge this exploitation of not only labor, but of our humanity, and through this process are working to repair some of the harms done by public and private actors. Because of the work of our ancestors, we are here and continue to invest, and we are here and will continue to invest in the descendants of their legacy. Ramaytush Ohlone Land Acknowledgement. The African American Art and Culture Complex acknowledges that we are on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. As the indigenous stewards of this land, and in accordance with their traditions, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded nor lost nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place, as well as for all peoples who reside in their traditional territory. As guests, we recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland. We wish to pay our respects by acknowledging the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush Ohlone community, and by affirming their sovereign rights as First Peoples. Right now, I want to introduce myself. I want to let you know that my name is Tracy Brown, and I work with the development and programs team here at the African American Art and Culture Complex. And I want to welcome you on behalf of the twins, Melanie Green and Melora Green, who are our co-directors. They work very hard to provide as many opportunities as possible for Black artists in the Bay Area. So we want to appreciate their work, their sacrifices, and also appreciate the role that they played in helping to form the committees and helping to advocate for the Dreamkeeper funds that were earmarked and that we are able to access for the use of this program, to support this program. So thank you very much, Melanie and Melora. Today they are hosting a big event in San Francisco, so they're not able to be with us physically, but they are definitely here with us in spirit. So at this juncture, I want to let you know that the way that we're going to progress today is we're going to learn about the details of the programs that we have. And then you will have the opportunity to ask questions. Now, we are excited that we've had so much response. We have so many positive responses to the funding that's available currently. And we've gotten a lot of applications. And I'm seeing some things in applications, so I want to make sure that I mention or clarify a few things that I've been seeing people sort of stumbling over in the applications thus far. Why is that important to note? Because we are here, and unlike the process that you might experience with a lot of funders, we really, really want you to get this funding. Like, we want you to be successful. and we're willing to work hard to help you be successful. So, in support of that, I want to do whatever I can to help you have the strongest applications possible. But please do not hesitate to ask questions. No question is a silly question. And even if you have a question prior to the time when we have the Q&A session or Q&A portion of our program today, feel free to pop it in the chat and we'll make sure that we catch it. Okay. So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and start the presentation. The Dreamkeeper Initiative is a citywide effort launched in 2021 which involves the reinvestment of $60 million annually into San Francisco's highly diverse Black communities. Now, the Dreamkeeper Initiative is part of Mayor London Breed's legendary and highly progressive roadmap for reforming public safety and addressing structural inequities in San Francisco. The AAACC is one of the awardees of this initiative, and the iteration of the Dreamkeeper Initiative at the AAACC is called the Ubuntu Resource Program. Now, Ubuntu is a Zulu word, often translated as I am because we are. By selecting this term, the leadership and the team at the AAACC affirms their belief in and dedication to communal growth and advancement. The Ubuntu Resource Program invests in Black artists, creatives, and community members in a couple of ways. Quick grants provide self-care activities, whether it's radical self-care in the form of massages, etc., or respite care for caregivers, or something like skills building. The creative development cohorts provide learning experiences as well as incubator opportunities and guidance on the development of artistic projects and growth and understanding of the formal funding development process. Now, there are a couple of eligibility requirements that vary depending on the grant that you are applying for, but there are some eligibility requirements that apply to each and every grant here at the AAACC. So first and foremost, individuals who are living or personally identify or define themselves as African, African-American, Afro-Cuban, essentially as a member of the Black community is eligible to apply for grants at the AAACC. Okay, so you must be a person who lives and personally identifies and defines yourself as a member of the Black community. Additionally, our grants are for individuals working as artists, creatives, creative entrepreneurs, cultural producers, and nonprofit arts organization staff. So a highly specialized, very specific population, but still broad in our approach to support. All individuals must be 18 years or older at the time of application deadline. And we also have an enterprising creative seniors program, and the applicants must be 60 years or older at the time of application deadline. Additionally, and this is very important, you must have no conflict of interest, either familial or financial, with the board, staff, or directors of the AAACC. You may apply to one of the funding areas. We have a $300 self-care, radical self-care quick grant. We have a $500 learning opportunity, okay? And then we have a $2,000 creative project opportunity. So if you're selected for funding, please note that the proposed activity that the funding will cover must be completed within 6 months of receiving funds, okay? And also know that quick grant applicants can apply to the creative development cohorts, right? So that's a very important distinction. You can apply for both a quick grant and participation in a creative development cohort. Just know that you may only, if you're applying for quick grants, you may only apply for one specific area. With regards to radical self-care, the AAACC believes in disrupting cycles of wellness disparity and is working hard to provide compensation and provide funds to engage in activities of self-defined radical self-care. So we want to support you in taking care of you so you can be the best you can be. Funds may be used for workshops, classes, childcare, respite care for caretakers, even decluttering, any number of things. Okay. And funds may also be used for other programs and services that fall into the category of self-defined self-care, but that is definitely subject to organizational approval. Learning opportunities quick grant, it's a $500 grant, and you can use the funds for learning opportunities in a class or workshop, etc. The creative project quick grant is the largest quick grant, and that is up to $2,000. And funds from the creative project quick grant can be used to develop a project in any artistic medium. So again, Radical Self-Care Quick Grant is up to $300. Learning Opportunities Quick Grant is up to $500. And the Creative Project Quick Grant is up to $2,000. For the quick grants, a unique eligibility requirement for the quick grants is that you have to be a resident of the city and county of San Francisco. So we have some flexibility with other grants, but with the quick grants, you must be a San Francisco resident. With regards to the scoring criteria for the quick grant, when our panelists review the quick grant applications, they're going to score based on whether or not it appears that the benefits of the activity are clear to the applicant. That's worth 0 to 5 points. And also, they're going to score based on whether or not it appears the applicant understands the significance of the activity that they are undertaking. And again, that's 0 to 5 points. Both questions are worth 0 to 5 points. This is a peek at the scoring rubric. So for ineligible projects, obviously, they get a score of 0. Incomplete project applications, rather, they get a score of 1. Needs work would get a score of 2. If the project that is proposed or the use of funds that is proposed is deemed sort of a good use of funds, that they've done a good job stating that the benefits of the activity are clear, or that they understand the activity, their understanding of the activity could be rated as good, based on what they wrote about their project in the application, then you would get a 3. If it's deemed effective, you would get a 4, strong 5, etc. And so the maximum total that you would be able to earn in that category from each scorer, each reviewer, appears on the lower tier. So you can at most get a number 10 on the ranking system. You'll find the scoring rubric and criteria and other important information in the guidelines posted on the AAACC's programs page. One thing we want you to keep in mind about these quick grant funding areas, if you're selected for funding, again, you're going to need to complete your activity within 6 months of receiving the funds. And again, you can apply to creative development cohorts when you apply for a quick grant. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the creative development cohorts. We have 2 categories for the cohorts, enterprising creatives, and we also have the Black cannabis creatives and vendors, and this is a non-plant touching program, okay? So creative development cohort applicants may also apply for quick grants, but you cannot apply to both creative development cohorts, okay? So you're going to want to choose the one that makes the most sense for you. Artists who are selected for participation in one of the creative development cohorts can receive up to $10,000 for their participation. You are eligible to apply to the creative development cohorts if you meet the following criteria. Okay, so we've already talked about the fact that you need to be a person of the Black community. We talked about the age requirements, but we have some special requirements for the various cohorts. So for the cannabis cohort, you must reside in San Francisco. Okay, you must reside in the city and county of San Francisco. For the enterprising creatives cohort, you must reside in San Francisco, Contra Costa, or Alameda counties. Okay, so and we do ask for verifiable proof of your residency. You also must have performed or presented artistic work in a public context, including online or digital platforms. Thanks to the pandemic, we're doing many more virtual programs. So you must have performed or presented artistic work in a public context within the last 3 years. And also the project that you propose for the creative development course must be new work. So we know you have some things there brewing that you'd like to bring forth, and this is your opportunity to finally work on that project that you've been looking to bring to life. Applicants selected to participate in the 2022 creative development cohort are ineligible to apply in 2023. So if you were one of our grantees last year, you're not eligible to apply for the creative development cohorts this year. Also, our creative development cohorts are being run by some wonderfully dynamic presenters. So the first one I'll share with you about is Miss Helen Branham. She is a highly esteemed community and economic development professional and small business management professional. She specializes in various things. The list that you see on the screen is just a few of them. She specializes in financial projections, technical assistance, and marketing strategies. And she does numerous things to help businesses start, grow, and thrive. And she has many, many years experience in this area. So we're very lucky to have her. She founded the Enterprising Women Business Training and Mentorship Program. And she also developed and led the nationally recognized and award-winning San Francisco Community Benefits Business Development Training Program. Additionally, she provided oversight in the distribution and management of a $500,000 worth of microgrants. So again, you have the opportunity to study with and work with and receive support from a true gem of a practitioner. Ms. Helen's 30-day boot camp is designed to encourage rapid review and reevaluation of artists' original vision for themselves as creatives. So artists are also being supported in building on their existing knowledge. We recognize that artists are coming into this program with their own body of knowledge, and we work to support artists in building on that existing foundation of knowledge. Our focus will be on clarifying and improving present ideas while creating actionable steps and planning for self-accountability. Also, Ms. Helen supports her participants in exploring the critical intersection between the arts and business. Additionally, some of the features of Ms. Helen's program are weekly masterclasses, one-on-one technical assistance, also marketing assistance, and so much more. We are also fortunate to have, for the first time this year, our Black Cannabis Creatives and Vendors cohort. And again, this is a non-plant touching cohort, but it is led by the Jeanette Wright. She is a native of San Francisco and a health promoter, as well as a community organizer and a social equity advocate. She has degrees in biotechnology and public health from prominent local universities. And she also has certificates in horticulture and business cannabis from Amsterdam. So you are working with someone who is highly qualified to help you bring forth your ideas related to this cohort. She is currently the Director of Community Outreach and Engagement for Bay Area Safe Alternatives, which is one of the longest continuous running dispensaries. So she knows of which she speaks. In the Black Cannabis Creatives and Vendors cohort, once again, non-plant touching, you learn about the history, the politics, science, etc. of cannabis, as well as its social impact. If you're an entrepreneur, the focus will be really information for those seeking equity licenses and ownership. If you're part of the sort of core group, you will get information on cannabis careers and management, etc., as managers, etc. And then if you're at the entry level, for those who might be seeking entry level positions at dispensaries, you will be able to receive information that is pertinent to you, as well as those who hold or are looking to hold ancillary roles in utilizing their existing skills to transfer them to a cannabis business or working with cannabis brands. So you have an opportunity to really just grow your skill set and also establish yourself as a Black cannabis creative and vendor through this program. We also have someone who is a familiar face to you, at least after the last 20 minutes. That's me, Tracy Brown. I have a master's in arts politics from NYU. I'm a San Francisco native as well. And I started out at the AAACC when I was 5 years old. It is the place where I received my first real exposure to the cultural arts. And it has been instrumental to my life ever since. I'm an independent curator and artivist, which is an artistic activist. I'm a photographer and public presenter and more. I lecture about visual culture and the tobacco industry's use of it in the targeting of the Black community. And I am fortunate enough to be able to say that I was able through my artivist activities to compel the world's largest purchasing body, the US government's General Services Administration, to remove a rubber black man shooting target from their catalog to ensure that it is not being distributed all over the world. So the cohort that I will be running is the Enterprising Creative Seniors cohort. And essentially, it's banking on or benefiting from the model of cohort-based learning, which is very, very empowering. This program will provide our senior participants, their elder artists, with the training and information and direct instruction and tools that they need to thrive in a modern creative industry. So the program focuses on, first and foremost, some healing modalities for seasoned creatives. We know that working in the Bay Area artistic landscape has not been easy, but there are a lot of people who have been steadfast in that work for long periods of time. We also will be tackling technology. So helping to demystify technology that, some people may feel a little less than comfortable with. I'll also work to share with you some grant seeking basics, some information about what it's like to look for grants in this contemporary time, as well as provide you with information about social media and how to manage it and make it manageable, as well as archiving your legacy. We know that our seasoned artists have some wonderful legacies, this collections of work that they've done that might be trapped in VHS tapes and Betamax tapes and cassettes, and it needs to be digitized, or you're trying to figure out how to organize all of those things. So that's something that you'll also be learning about in this cohort. So the goal is really to empower our more seasoned creatives to thrive in this tech-centric um, contemporary art world. And again, you must be 60 years or older at the time of at the application deadline to be accepted into this program. And sessions will be held either in person, virtually, or hybrid. So any one of those three. The application review panelists will score the creative development cohort applications based on artistic merit, project readiness, with the value of your work samples, and the project significance. So we want, with regards to artistic merit, the panelists will want to understand the applicant's connection to the African American community, and specifically the African American community in San Francisco and the Bay Area, as well as get a clear understanding of at least some of their artistic achievements, skills, etc. And this question is worth, this information is worth up to 10 points. The project readiness aspect of the application gives you the opportunity to detail your work plans, timelines, and also a breakdown of how you plan to use grant funds. Don't get stressed out. It is not one of those super complicated budget projections. We just want to know what's your rough idea of how you would like to use the funds for this project and the project that, for the project that you'd like to do. You should also, detail how you're going to measure success, and that's worth a maximum of 10 points. Your work samples should be reflective of your history of artistic achievement and the quality of work. So this question is worth a maximum of 5 points, right? And we want you to have some really strong work samples. Also, project significance should state how your project will help your artistic career and why the project is important at this time. So this question is worth a maximum of 5 points. So pretty straightforward rubric. You can see what it looks like here, very similar to the other scoring rubric that we shared. This particular grant, the Creative Development, excuse me, cohort grant is worth 30 points. It's on a 30-point ranking system, so you can get up to 30 points based on your application. Excuse me. You'll find the scoring criteria, rubric, and other important application information in the Creative Development Cohort Guidelines posted on the AAACC's program page. So speaking of the program page, you can find it at https://AAACC.org/programs. And the application opens on Monday, April 3rd, 2023. The deadline is Sunday, April 16th, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. Pacific. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to us at programsandservices@AAACC.org. Applicants are strongly encouraged to attend our Q&A information sessions on Thursday, April 6th, 2023 at 6 p.m. or Thursday, April 13th, 2023 at 11 a.m. We will be having a Q&A session. So feel free to ask any questions that you have. You can always email them in advance, but if you would like to just come and gain greater clarity, please feel free to do so. This is a glimpse in what you will see in our application pages. We, like many creative organizations, utilize Submittable for both the Quick Grant and the creative cohorts. So the image should be familiar to you. This is what you'll see in the application itself. Also, we want to point out that in the final portion of the application, which is completely electronic, I want to make sure that I stress this. The application is completely electronic. Do not print it out, fill it out by hand and mail it or drop it off at the AAACC. We will not accept applications that are not completed through the Submittable platform. In the final portion of the application, you'll be asked to complete a demographic survey. And the survey topics include things about race, ethnicity, employment, income awareness, et cetera, et cetera. We recognize that this portion of the application is extensive and in-depth. Your answers to demographic survey are anonymous, they are confidential, and will not affect the scoring of your application. Okay. The collection of data is federally mandated and shared only with the funders of this program. A condition of the AAACC receiving this important funding and having the opportunity to distribute it in community is that we must collect this data. So the other thing that is important to note is that the final page of the application is where you'll agree to the terms associated with participation in the program. So all applicants need to accept and confirm that they understand that participants also have a responsibility while participating in the program. So their informational responsibilities, turning in certain forms, attendance responsibilities, and we wanted to make sure that at the application phase and every phase, you had a clear understanding of the, all applicants have a clear understanding of their responsibilities and their connection to their stipends, okay? Lastly, you will electronically sign and date your application in the online portal before submitting. So again, everything is electronic. The deadline to apply, as a reminder, a friendly reminder, is April 16th, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. Did I mention that the deadline is April 16th, 2023? I want to make sure that I mention that. Please be sure to submit as early as you can. Technology is a moody beast, and you do not want to run the risk of running into technical issues when you're doing your submission. So we want to make sure that your application process goes as smoothly as possible. So be sure to get your application in as early as possible. We are also offering limited opportunities to schedule the input of your application via phone for those who may have the necessity for that, whether it's because they are differently abled or because they are still growing in their utilization of technology and their skill set of utilization of technology. We have limited opportunities for that as well. So you can find out about all of that on AAACC's grants programs website. So with that, we want to thank you for attending our info session or for watching our recording. And we invite you to email us at programsandservices@AAACC.org. We look forward to receiving your application materials and to working with you in community. Have a great day. Okay, so with that said, all of that said, you can watch that recording again if you need to on the AAACC website. And my colleague, Candace, who is helping today with monitoring the chat and making sure that I don't miss any questions, it will pop the link in the chat. In the meantime, I want to just raise a couple of points and also answer a couple of questions that have come in thus far, but so keep the questions coming. Okay, and I understand if you're on the phone and you can't get to your questions. I don't know if maybe you can, I think everybody is logged into the video part, so you can always raise your hand or whatnot. Anyway, first of all amounts are up to whatever the amount is. And we're saying that because we want you to know that, we have the funding, but we're trying to fund as many people as possible. We want to make sure that we award people, enough funds to carry out a significant project That said, if we can squeeze out a few more dollars to fund people, we're going to do that. So it may be a little less than you request, or you may get, the full amount, but we just want you to be prepared for if it's a little different. And that's why we're just trying to make sure that we fund as many viable projects as possible. All grants are individual artist grants. So they're not really for collectives or groups. It's really for the individual artist. Excuse me. If you are part of a group or collective, and you want to use this for work with the collective or group, then there should be one applicant, and you'll be the person who receives those funds and manages them. But realistically, it's really for individual artists. So you do not need a 501c3 to apply. It's an individual artist grant, so you don't need to have an organization behind you. I'm also making appointments. Some people are just not comfortable with technology. So I have a limited availability of appointments for people who want to submit their applications verbally. Again, we are rooting for you. We want you to win. So what we'll do is just have you send me an email at Tracy at AAACC.org. That's TRACY at AAACC.org. And you can make an appointment over the next couple of days to submit your application verbally. And again, I have a limited amount of appointments. If you're able to use Submittable, that's best, because this is like crazy busy time, but I don't want anybody to be left out because they have challenges with technology. The term creatives is even broader than just quote unquote artists, because so often folks don't recognize that there is creative work being done in other areas associated with the arts. So we have folks who are curators. We consider you to be creatives as well. So if you're a experienced curator, you definitely you should qualify, and don't hesitate to apply. And also archivists of the creative work. So we have some people who are like, well, I might not be able to dance, and I might not be able to sing, and I might not do these things. I can't sculpt or whatever. But what I have done is I've done the video work for artists throughout the years, or I'm holding this massive archives. Some of my colleagues, they, or my friends or my cousins, they passed, and now I need to get the archive of all of the work that they did in the arts in San Francisco, or at the cultural organizations that have been connected with the center or Alice Art Center or whatever. I need to get all of that stuff archived, and I need to know how, so that we can make sure people can access it in the future. So archivists also count. We've had people remark about the length of the application. The application is pretty straightforward. The questions are pretty simple, but the application is relatively lengthy. It shouldn't take you more than 30 minutes at the most to complete it. But there are a lot of questions, and some people are like, why are you asking me all these questions? It is because of the funder. There's nothing we can do about it. We have to collect the demographic information as a requirement of the funder, and so we are working with them. They have admitted themselves that their application is long, and we're talking with them, and they're like, yes, we get it. We're in negotiations around it, but in the meantime, we got what we got is what we have to use. And so that is the reason behind the length of the application and the number of sort of demographic questions, and how sort of deep they delve into things. Your responses are confidential, even from some of the people who are looking over the applications. The most sensitive portions of your information that you submit are actually hidden from the folks who are doing the review. So really, the review is about what your project is, etc. The panelists are reviewing your project. We also want to stress that the participants, we are here to help, to support. We want to make sure that you have, information that's going to help you be successful. That said, the participants have a responsibility to participate actively, to submit the items that are requested. So, you'll have project proposals that you have to submit, final reports, etc. All those things, you're responsible for submitting them. So just like any other grant program, you have responsibilities as the person who has received the funds as a grantee. So, and those responsibilities are tied to your stipend. So if you don't actively participate, you don't show up for the sessions, you don't turn in what you're supposed to turn in, etc., you will not receive your stipend, or your stipend will be diminished all the way down to zero if you don't participate. So we want to make sure that that is abundantly clear from the beginning. Participants have responsibility as well. We had 2 questions in the chat, or a few questions in the chat. So I'm going to ask you, Candace, at this time, if you could come on the screen as well as unmute and help me know what those questions are.
No problem. Thank you. Let's see. So the first question is, how many projects can you propose to be in a cohort?
So you want to have at least one main project, and we recognize that this is not a multi-million-dollar grant. So, don't be overly ambitious. If you want to propose a couple of different projects, you can, but, keep it realistic and keep it manageable for yourself.
Thank you. The next question is, if you have started some foundational work on your project, like setting up a website, is it still considered a new project?
It all depends on how far along you've gotten on that project. So if your project, you maybe set up a website for the project, you have a concept of it, but you haven't really brought it into fruition, you haven't done the, actual bringing it forth, bringing it to life, then that would be more than likely a new project. But we're definitely have to consider that on a case-by-case basis. So you, in your application, want to share what background work you've done thus far to help us have a clear understanding. Not to mention creatives, we always have a whole laundry list of projects that we want to bring forth. So if it's a project that's really advanced, you've already done a lot for it, just choose another project, because we always have a ton of them in our little trick bags. So hopefully you'll find something that works.
Thank you. The next question is, does the 6-month window for presenting or completing the project end on October 16th, which they believe is about 6 months after the application deadline? So the question is, does the 6-month window for presenting or completing the project end on October 16th? I think this has to do with the cohorts.
Yes, absolutely. So I appreciate your application of exact numbers, etc. We are working to make a certain reporting deadlines. So it's around 6 months. So it might be like 5 months and 2 days or something, but it's around 6 months. So we'll tell you for sure the firm date. Once you've been accepted to the program and you become a participant, we'll tell you the firm date that you have to bring forth the project. Just know that it's within the next 6 months.
Thank you. I combined a few questions here. Let's see. So this is, when does the 30-day cohort start? What is the cohort size? And how long is the cohort, and how often will we meet? So kind of, when does it start? What is the size? How often do they meet?
Gotcha. So it's going to depend on the cohort. For the standard sort of Enterprising Creatives cohort with Miss Helen, her start date is May 10th, and it's once a week on Wednesdays from 5:30 to 7 p.m. So that's Miss Helen's cohort. For the other cohorts, the dates are to be announced. I know for the Enterprising Creative Seniors cohort, we'll be meeting over a couple of weekends. So you imagine that maybe it'll be like 2 or 3 weekends, so that we can weekend days, meaning like a Saturday. so that we can complete all of the work that we need to do in a somewhat abbreviated, somewhat condensed amount of time. Because a lot of we recognize that a lot of our artists have gigs and they have things that they do regularly over the weekend. So what I'm trying to do is make it as convenient as possible for people to get the information and complete their work as quickly as possible. The other cohort dates are not, for like the cannabis cohort, for example, the dates have not been published, but they're all going to be starting around the May timeframe.
And did you know the size of the cohorts? I might have missed
Oh,
that.
very good question. So it's going to vary. Typically the cohorts are somewhere around 15 people, 10 to 15 people. But again, we're trying to get as many people in the cohorts as possible, but I think a safe number for your assumption should be about 20. That's for the general enterprising creatives cohort. And for the enterprising seniors cohort, it'll probably be somewhere between 5 to 10. And then for the cannabis creatives cohort, I'm not sure about the number, but I know that we're just trying to support as many people as possible, to be honest.
Thank you. This is some intake questions about applications. The first is, what is the waiting time? What is the estimated waiting time for the results of the applications?
You'll hear back within the next couple of weeks. We're very quick. So you'll hear back within the next couple of weeks.
Great. And how many grants will be issued and how many applications are you expecting?
It all depends. Last year we got 170 applications. And this year we expect a healthy amount. So, again, this year, one of the things that we're doing, like I said, is sort of adjusting the amounts depending on how many applications we get. So we don't have a number currently, but we've had a healthy number of applications coming in. Oh, sorry. And the other thing that I've been doing is just trying my best to look through the applications that have already been submitted. And if there's a challenge with your application, I try to send you a message just saying, hey, you may want to look at this again, or maybe you misinterpreted this question. So we'll reopen your application to give you time to update your responses. So that type of thing is happening as well, which is going to make the number of people who are eligible this year higher, hopefully, because we just, like I said, want to support as many people as possible.
Thank you. Let's see. How does the program measure success and or the impact on the Black community?
So we are hoping, first of all, to answer that, we have to think about the purpose of the funds that came in. So the Dreamkeeper funds were funds that were reallocated from the police budget in San Francisco. And the goal is to disperse this 60 some odd million dollars amongst different community members so that they are receiving the support that they need to be able to thrive, to be able to bring forth creative projects, to be able to get training that they need, etc. So success is us supporting as many people as possible in bringing forth projects. So we want you to not only get into the program and get the funding, but we want you to bring forth the projects that you propose. We want you to, like for the Enterprising Creatives programs, both seniors and the Enterprising Creatives program cohort with Ms. Helen, our goal is to provide training that's going to help you be able to thrive. So in the Enterprising Seniors program, for example, there are some basic tech skills that folks may be looking for that they'll learn about in our program. Well, if by the time you leave our program, you feel confident with attending a Zoom meeting or hosting a Zoom meeting, or you feel confident applying for funding from the San Francisco Arts Commission or from, because now you know how to use Submittable, or you know how to use one of the other platforms that's being used by San Francisco Foundation or California Arts Council, that's success. When we hear our participants say that they have gained skills that is going to help and support them in thriving as artists and creatives today, that's success. And also for our personal success, and this has nothing to do with what the funders are telling us, for our own personal success organizationally, if we are able to help artists feel heard, feel seen, feel like they have received some sort of respite, and also feel like they have a safe space in which to come on over the long term to ask questions or to receive just the support that they need, because it can be cold out there for us as Black artists. We want to make sure that our folks feel like they have a safe space. So once you're a part of the AAACC programming, you're part of the community. And we hope that we can sustain a relationship with you so that you feel like you are resourced and you feel seen and you feel helped and supported.
Thank you. There's a related question. I think you hit on it with your previous answer, which was how is the funding dispersed? And maybe after this question, I'll go to Sumiko, who has had their hand up before we move on to any other questions that were dropped in the chat. So the question is, how is the funding dispersed?
Sure, everything is dispersed electronically. So we have electronic systems that you will be signed up for once you are accepted to the program. But the disbursements come electronically, and the cohort leaders will confirm that you have submitted the things that were requested of you so that your funds can be released.
Thank you. Okay, Sumika, I see your hand. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Oh, hi. Yeah, so I'm just, because I want to change my project if it's not going to be the right thing. The thing that I was starting to write was like in 2013, I did this thing called 60 Black Women in Horror, which was like interviews and like biographies and stuff. And then I did it like again, like an update, 100 Black Women in Horror in 2018. And then like this year, is gonna be the 10th anniversary, and I was gonna do the new one, which like so far is up to like 150 Black women in horror. So like so we put up a website for it, and we started like just the bios are up on it. But yeah, but the book has not come out, so there's no book out yet. The book has to be edited. The book has to have a whole bunch of steps happen before it can come out. But like now I'm like thinking maybe it won't be perceived as a new project, and I'm also thinking that maybe it's like not enough about me as a writer or something. I know that's not exactly I didn't exactly formulate that in a question.
No, I think that this is a really nuanced case. It sounds to me like you have started a project, but you still have a significant portion left to do. So you're still bringing forth the book project. The book hasn't happened. You're also still having to do promotions. You're going to have to organize yourself around it. You're going to have to do social media. You know, you've done some things, but there's still so much left to do. So
yeah,
based on what you're saying, based on what I'm hearing, it sounds to me like it would qualify because you still have so much to do for it. It sounds like you've done a significant amount. You have lots of background, but it sounds like you still have a lot to do. So from what I'm hearing you say right now, it sounds like it would make sense for you to apply.
thank you.
Thank you. The next question is, if one is traveling, can they participate in a cohort long distance, like in Zoom rather than in person?
So the cohort with Miss Helen, I believe, is long distance, and then the enterprising seniors is hybrid. So we'll have some meetings that will be in person and some virtual, or both. But it's going to depend on the cohort. I believe the cannabis cohort is also going to be virtual. So, so if you are traveling, that should be fine as long as you're a resident of the place that is associated with the eligibility requirements for the specific grant.
Great, thank you. What will disqualify you from getting into the program? Is doing the application incorrectly the only thing that disqualifies you? I'm thinking maybe that might be a question about eligibility.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. What will disqualify an applicant from getting into the program? And the example that they gave is, if you complete the application incorrectly, then you're disqualified from moving forward. So I'm kind of thinking this might be a eligibility question.
Eligibility question. Yeah, absolutely. So, we talked about the eligibility requirements around your ethnic identity. You have to be a person of African descent. We talked about age requirements. If you're a kid, you're younger than 18, you don't qualify. So those eligibility requirements are listed on our page. But in terms of, we will look at the way that you describe your project, just to see if it makes sense for, with regards to being a project that is, if your project is about, I don't know, praising Don Quixote or or looking at the European masters of painting, that's not the project that's going to be the best project for this pool of funds. Realistically, we're funding Black artists who are making art that really focuses on, that's sort of grounded in our community. So it's really, really gonna vary. But as long as you meet the basic eligibility requirements, you should be fine.
Thank you. And I dropped in the link to those eligibility requirements to that chat specific question. And if I hire artists for events, can I apply?
If you hire artists for events, you should tell what your role is in the overall project, in your application. So if your role is just, I have events and then I hire artists, you should talk about what the core event itself is in the project application.
Thank you. And for individuals seeking to do a verbal interview, will that be via phone or Zoom?
It can be via whatever makes the most sense for you, or whatever you feel most comfortable with. So if you'd like to do Zoom, that's fine. I tend to prefer Zoom because I like looking at people, but and it feels a little Star Trek, which I love. So it's nice to see people and talk to them. But if you want to, if via phone works better for you, we can do that too.
Okay, I'm going to read one last question before we get to Alan's. I see Alan has their hand raised. The last question here is, can one apply for 2 different projects as 2 separate applications?
Only if you are a San Francisco resident and you are applying to do a creative project quick grant, as well as one of the cohorts. But you cannot submit 2 different applications for like the same cohort program. What you could do is say, I have 2 projects that I'm interested in bringing into fruition using these funds. And during the time that I'm in the cohort, I might clarify which of the projects that I choose to move forward with.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to request to unmute Alan. Please go ahead and ask your question when you're ready, Alan.
Thank you.
Hey,
hello. Hey. Hey, I hope you can hear me. That's a little better, I suspect. Hi. I have a question about a project that affects the whole state of California. I'm working with a group of writers, the Afro-Surreal Writers Workshop of Oakland, and we're hoping to expand our reach to the entire state. And this is what one of the projects we're looking to fund. Is the fact that this grant is a local grant for San Francisco itself, or more specifically the Bay Area. would the fact that we're applying to do something across a broader region reduce our ability to access this grant?
Not necessarily. And these are the types of details you want to cover in your application, but it sounds like you are based in the Bay Area and you're doing something that definitely will resonate with the sort of Bay Area creative landscape, or will relate to the Bay Area creative landscape, but also has broad reach over the state. So you should outline what that really means in your application, and also how your participation in this program will support you bringing whatever that is into fruition in the Bay Area, and allow it to resonate statewide.
And those are all the questions, Tracy.
Oh, okay, wait, is it now, Ellen? I'm seeing you now, and did you have a second part to your question? Are you okay? Oh,
Let's see, let's try. Ask to unmute.
And thank you. Yeah, I got muted, so I couldn't ask my follow-up.
okay.
My follow-up is that we are programs in the Bay Area and have for close to a decade, actually. It's been quite a long time. And so we are trying to expand this Bay Area group to influence the entire state. Is my personal work and my own artistry, my own sense of writing, an important part of this application, or should I be applying specifically for the group and as the group, rather than as Ella McBarnett, who lives here in the Bay in Alameda County?
You would apply as yourself and talk about your role with the group, and also how, like I said, how your work relates to the Bay Area and how it's going to come into fruition in the Bay Area. So it's hard for me. I know, I hear what you're describing. It sounds interesting, but I'm not in a position to be like, yes, that will absolutely count. Right now, I think the best thing to do would be to outline that in your application and then give us an opportunity to review it closely. But I'm hearing you talk about it, so I'm sure that whatever you put in your application is going to be really, very clearly stated as to like who you are, what you've been doing, who you are as an artist. You have to submit a work sample, so we'll have an opportunity to see the work that you've done previously. We'll also talk about your goals. I mean, you have about 200 words in which to do that, but in over a couple of questions, but I really feel confident that you'll be able to clearly state it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. There's one question in the chat. Do things like having Bay Area participants in the project count for Bay Area relevance?
Possibly, and you should put that in your application.
Okay, I see some. If Sumiko, I don't know if you need to lower your hand, or if you have another question. There's Monique with their hand raised.
Okay.
Go ahead if you are able to, Monique.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I just wanted to ask a question. I don't know if what you sent us earlier, is that the link to the grant where we can apply?
Yes, and Candace can put the link in to the page to the page where you can click, to go to apply.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, Malik, I'm going to go ahead and request.
And these will be the last two questions because we actually have to wrap up. I want to respect people's time, and I have another appointment.
Hello, greetings, and thank you for all your amazing work, Sister Tracy. Also want to thank the African American Art and Culture Complex for this opportunity. I have a couple of young people that have been trying to get tied into this opportunity as well. However, I have a project that I'm doing, although I'm not living in San Francisco. I have a project I wanted to do to engage with the creative arts project. that I'm doing, and I want to try to see how we can tie that in together. So I'm hoping that I will also be able to get some of those some of the postings that you had here in the Zoom meet, so that we can look over that as well, so we can see how that might work.
I'm sorry, my audio cut out really quickly. Can you state just the last part of your question? You were asking if we can look at, what was it now?
No, the idea is I'm because I'm not a San Francisco resident,
Mhm.
I'm concerned on whether or not I'll be able to apply for the creative grant under the guise of working with youth that I'm bringing up as artists here in Baby Hunters Point.
Absolutely. So the nice thing is that the cohorts are open to residents of San Francisco, Contra Costa, and Alameda counties.
Okay, but which are the ones that are not local? I want to
The
make
quick grants are not
the
are
quick
only for
grants.
San Francisco residents, as well as
Gotcha.
the cannabis cohort,
Oh,
which I
yeah.
know that you're not doing with youth. That's not for, that's only
All
7
right.
residents as well.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. If we don't have any, I don't think we have any other questions at this juncture. So thank you so much, Candace. Thank you, everybody, for all of your wonderful questions, for your attendance and participation. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. We are at programs and services at AAACC.org. Again, that's programs and services at AAACC.org. And if you would like to make an appointment to, thank you, Candace. And if you'd like to make an appointment to submit a verbal application, you can email me at Tracy at AAACC.org. That's TRACY at AAACC.org if you would like to make an appointment. But if you have other questions, the best email address is the programs and services at AACC.org, because that is manned by more than one person. And then there was a request for the link to the RFP. Once again, we have it here. I'm going to just pop this in the chat, and it is AAACC, it's AAACC.org /programs. Okay. So again, thank you, everyone. And I will look forward to seeing your applications. Don't forget, Sunday is the deadline. We cannot accept, and we are not going to be extending it. We cannot accept any late applications. So get it in and tell a friend. All right, now have a good day.